Hello everyone, my name is John from Vulgar Kitten Studios, and welcome to episode 4 of How to Make a Video Game. And in this lesson what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating some mines, so they will explode and destroy enemies within their proximity, and destroy themselves and whatever runs over them when they get run over. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a paid asset to get some particle effects for some explosions. Um, this pack isn't but $20. You can make your own particle effects if you want. I'm just not going to do that because I find these to be very, very high quality and I've already purchased it. So you can get this as well, or you can use your own. And it's called the free, or not free, what am I talking about? It's called the JMO Assets War Effects Pack. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and go into my asset store and import that package. And I'll just pause the video while I do that and I'll be right back. Okay, here it is on the asset store. As you can see, it's only $20 and it comes with a lot of stuff. And it's even got a built-in editor on it as well. So again, highly recommend it. Very pretty effects, and I'm going to import this and I'll get right back to you. Okay, so we have that imported now. And we're getting some errors or some warnings off of the scripts in here, and we don't even need these scripts, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete those. And that's from the asset store. Get rid of that. And now we'll go ahead and set up our tank so it can drop some mines. And what we'll have to do is we'll have to create a child object of our tank object. So I'll go ahead and grab our tank object, go into game object and create empty child, and bring that sucker right here. Probably about right there. And because I used create empty child, I know it's already centered. And looks about right. I'm just going to call this thing mine drop. Dropped. Mine drop. And yeah, so that looks good. And we'll need two effects, or not two effects, but two scripts for this as well. One to drop the mine and one to drive the mine. So we'll say mine drop. What is it with me putting T after P? I don't know, maybe it's a compulsion. Anyway, we'll also need a mine script. And so we'll go ahead and open up mine drop in MonoDevelop. And very simple script. We're just going to say public transform mine, and we'll give it a integer for mine count because we only want the player to have 3 mines total, and maybe we can make some pickups or something to increase that number, but at the moment we don't want them to start out with anything but 3. So we'll go into our update method and quite simply say if input.get key down, and the key code that we want to get, key code.tab, and mine count is greater than 0. If those conditions are met, then we are going to create an anonymous variable of the type transform, call that tr, and assign it to transform.find child, and the child that we want to find is our mine drop object that we just created. See, I did it again. And we'll game object.instantiate, and we'll instantiate the mine at the tr.position and the tr.rotation, and we'll decrease the mine counter. So mine count minus minus. Save it, and we're done with that. So let's go ahead and go back into Unity and hook up the script and the prefab. So we'll let it compile and grab our mine drop script and drag it onto tank. Grab tank and go into prefabs and drag on our mine. Okay, so let's go ahead and test this out. So we'll play, and looks like it's got a missing mono behavior from when I missed it, or from when I built it. But at least they're dropping, and it's not allowing me to drop anymore because I already have 3 in the scene, so our counter's working as well. And we'll just go ahead and take that and remove this component. Sorry about that. Must have left a script on it when I built the assets, or when I built the package for the assets. I didn't build the assets, Sparky built the assets. Anyway, getting back onto the subject matter, we'll go ahead and grab our mine script and open that up. And make sure that we drop that on our mine prefab first of all. Go to mine, drop it on the mine there. And make sure everything is on. And make sure you keep the sphere collider off because we don't want to enable it until a certain time. Capsule collider keep on because that's what we're using to hit the object. So I'll just go ahead and quickly explain this. Basically, we'll be using this capsule collider to be a very tall object that we can shoot. Because we're looking at the top down, we obviously can't shoot at the mine because the bullets are going to fly straight. But we've got this collider here, so it'll still intersect this collider, and we can shoot that mine and it'll explode. So that's essentially what we're trying to do with that. And the sphere collider, it's disabled at this point in time because we don't want to enable it until the moment it explodes. And then at the moment it explodes, we are going to expand its radius out and create a blast radius that way. And that's what's going on with our collisions. I'll just go ahead and delete this, and we'll go back into our script and start coding it. So the first thing that we need is an enumeration, and call it state. And the states that we can have are red and yellow, because we can blink our light between red and yellow. And we'll need a couple of public floats, one for frequency, one for the fuse, so how long it takes to explode, and the expansion rate of our sphere collider, so expansion rate. And we'll also need a public transform reference to our explosion particle effect. And luckily our particle effect package, or at least my particle effect package, already comes with scripts attached to the particle effects that will auto-destruct them, and I don't have to do it, so yay me, and yay you if you got the pack. Anyway, we'll go ahead and continue. We'll also use a bool, and we'll call this live, so if the mine is live, we'll start it out to be true. And we'll need an array of materials because our our mine actually has multiple materials on it, and we'll call that mats. And we'll get our sphere collider, so sphere collider. And I'll just call that SC, and we'll also get the audio source and call that AS, which I'm going to go ahead and go back into Unity now and make sure that we have an audio source on it so we can play an explosion effect. And speaking of audio, there's one thing I forgot to do in our last video, and that's add audio to our bullet, so I can go ahead and do that now. We already have an audio source attached to it, so we can just go to audio and go to projectile and drag on our clips. Same thing for enemy bullet, and drag it onto, well, it is on our thing there. So let's play the game, and yeah, okay. And alright, so where were we? We were checking for an audio source. We don't have one, so that's going to throw an error if we don't have one. So let's go ahead and add that now. Audio source and not listener. We'll remove that. We need an audio source. Disable it by default, and we'll go ahead and drag the mine sound effect on there. Okay, and we'll go back into our script, and we'll also need a private reference to our state, so we'll say state is equal to state dot yellow, and not in start, we will use the awake function because we're going to override start. In awake, we'll say mats is equal to renderer dot materials, get the plural one because that's the array, and we'll say sc is equal to get component, and the component that we want to get is obviously a sphere collider, so sphere collider, and as is equal to get component audio source. Okay, And we also want to go ahead and start a countdown to explode this mine right away. So we'll go ahead and create a new IEnumerator and call that explode. Well, we actually need to make that a method. And for our explode method, we are going to yield return new wait for seconds. And the amount of seconds we will wait for is the fuse time. And we will set the enable property of our sphere collider to true. And then we'll do some other stuff in here. But for now, that's good enough, so we'll go ahead and start that coroutine on awake. So start coroutine. And the coroutine we want to start is explode. And that does it for our awake function. Now we need to actually use our start function. So we'll actually make this an IEnumerator and override our start function. And in our start function we will construct a while loop. So while live, and we'll need to make sure that we return a null value, so yield return null. And before that we will make a switch statement and we'll switch on our state. So state and cases for that, which is going to be state.red, and we'll break and case state.yellow. Break. And I actually want to switch these up because, I don't know, just for OCD purposes it really doesn't matter, but I want the yellow to be first and I want it to be on top there. And so for these we'll actually set up two more IEnumerators and we'll call them accordingly red and yellow, so not IEnumerable but IEnumerator yellow and IEnumerator red. And we'll go ahead and go into our yellow and we'll yield return new wait for seconds and the frequency at which the light blinks. Then we'll say mats 0, so the first object in the array dot color is equal to color dot yellow, and our state is equal to state dot yellow. And we'll go into our red, and it's essentially the same thing, so we can just copy this code and paste it in here, and we'll just change the color from red or yellow to red and the state from yellow to red. Okay, and let's go ahead and start our explosion effects. So this is also going to be an IEnumerator, except we're going to make it a public IEnumerator, and we'll call it explosion effects. And for this we'll just start out by instantiating a prefab of our particle effects, so transform.instantiate, and that will be the explosion at our transform.position and our transform.rotation. And we'll also want to enable our audio source so that we can play our explosion sound effect. So set that enabled property to be true, and we'll go ahead and grab a reference to our capsule collider, so we'll say capsule collider and call it cc is equal to get component, and of course type capsule collider. So the very tall object that we're going to be shooting, we want to then set that to be false, so we'll set the enable property to be false, and finally we'll set our live property also to be false. And we'll also want to disable our renderer so that it is no longer going to be showing. So renderer.enabled is equal to false. And then we'll need to wait for our sound effect to finish playing before we destroy the object. So we'll yield return new wait for seconds, and then we can just get the clip length. So as.clip.length. And then after that, we'll just quite simply destroy our game object. And this needs to be called as well, so we'll call that an explode. So we'll say start coroutine, and the coroutine we want to start is explosion effects, just like that. And we'll also need to go into our update method and expand our sphere collider. So we'll say if our sphere collider is enabled, then we'll do some stuff, and we'll check if the radius of the sphere collider is less than 1, because we don't ever want it to go above 1 unit. Then we'll say that we want to increase our radius, so plus equals, by 0.1 over the expansion rate times time dot delta time. And then that should be about it. And we'll also need an on trigger enter, so we'll say void on trigger enter. And this method is a built-in method for Unity, and it takes a parameter collider. So collider other, and in here we'll just want to start coroutine explosion effects for now. So explosion effects. Other than that, I think it's pretty okay. So let's go to Unity. Hopefully we didn't get any errors. Let's go ahead and select our mine and open up our mine script. Right now these values are set to 0, so I'll set the frequency maybe to 0.2, fuse to 3, and expansion rate to 0.1. And we'll need an explosion, so I'll go into our particle effects, or the particle effects that I'm using. Go to effects, explosions, and maybe not that big. That's for a landmine, although use small. Small is probably the best option. So we'll go back onto our mine. Need to find it again under prefabs, mine, and then we'll take our small explosion and drag that transform on there. So let's go ahead and play the game. And we got it exploding, but it's not blinking. So I'm going to pause the video real quick just to save on some time and figure out what the problem is. I'll be right. Okay, the problem was pretty simple. Basically all I did was forget to start the coroutines in our states. So we'll say start coroutine, and the coroutine that we will start is red in our yellow state, and then the exact same thing in our red state, except we want to start the yellow coroutine. So I'm going to go ahead and save that off, go back into Unity, and play the game, drop a mine, and it blinks, it explodes, and we'll probably not be able to shoot it yet. maybe once we start doing our damage effects, then we'll be able to do it. Otherwise, it looks pretty good, but I'm out of mines. I can't drop any more mines. Anyway, that does it for this tutorial. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.